Good morning, everyone. Hi. I wish I had a little turntable. I could just slowly move around. I'm Ruby Lerner. I'm the founding director of the Creative Capital Foundation. Welcome to GIA's Idea Lab. I was so honored to be asked to be your introducer for the next 2 days. Tomer has curated an incredible roster of artists for us, really exciting. Some will be here in person and some will come to us via technology. GIA's goal, I think, with the lab is really to help all of us expand our ideas about art making in the 21st century. Today, many artists are working in brand new ways and with brand new tools and materials. And so I think there's going to be a lot for us to consider over the next 2 mornings. I know that this hybridity has sometimes been a challenge for us at Creative Capital, as open as we like to think we are. But early on, we made a decision to follow the artists, to let them be our tour guides on their often remarkable journeys, and that has been infinitely rewarding. We have 4 terrific artists with us today. I'm going to just briefly introduce them. There's extensive information in the program. They're also, many of them will be able to stick around, so please be sure to come up and talk to them and ask them any questions that you might have. What's going to happen is that we're going to be alternating video presentations with the people who are here with us in the flesh. So just to briefly introduce the participants this morning, Paul Rucker is a visual artist, composer, and musician who combines media, data, and live performance. He's currently in residence at the Maryland Art Institute in Baltimore, but has a long history in the Seattle community, so I think many of you know him from there. Daniel Anguilu is from right here in Houston. He's a self-taught public artist. He began his career painting graffiti and tagging trains, and more recently has become a muralist whose work is stunning, as you will soon see. Latoya Peterson is a DC-based journalist whose interest is in the ways information and technology can be used in community settings. She is known for her award-winning blog, Racialicious. Ginny Ruffner is from Seattle. She's a Seattle artist whose glass sculptures help create the field of torch-worked glass art worldwide. She also works in metal sculpture, she does paintings, she does public art projects, and even pop-up books. So let's get started. Paul.
Thank you. I'm a composer, musician, visual artist, and check 1, 2. Hello, it's working? Thank you. Thank you, Ruby. My current project is called Recapitulation. It's a Creative Capital funded project, and it's paralleling slavery with the prison industrial complex. We currently have more than 2.3 million people in prison. That's 1 in every 99 people. Created this animated map to show this. Each dot you see on the screen right now is a brand new prison. We have a lot of prisons, and I created this animated map to show instead of tell, and that's kind of one of the great powers of art. And out of all these prisons, only 6 are not being used anymore. So I've used information from the Prison Policy Initiative, because anytime I work with data, I need to make sure that it's accurate data so you can see the rendered final steel of the piece. And as I said earlier, my project is paralleling the modern day prison system with slavery. And the same person who gave me the statistics for the prison maps found a wonderful map from 1860 of slave density. And so they actually counted the number of slaves that were in the United States in 1860. It was a big industry. I mean, in 1860, cotton sales alone were over $200 million, and that's in 1860 money. And a lot of times we don't talk about the economic impact of slavery for probably good reasons. The red light areas that are flashing now are slave population of 50% or more. If you go along the Mississippi River, you have 77%, 92%, and that means 9 out of every 10 slaves along the Mississippi River were slaves. If you go to my home state of South Carolina, there were more slaves in the state of South Carolina than free, and that goes the same for Mississippi. So I'm working on this project, Recapitulation, funded by Creative Capital, and it's paralleling these two systems. It's going to be a series of interactive sound and video installations, sculpture, stills, live performance, as well as more animation. And this map here will be done in the next couple of months, and there'll be sound added to it as well. And I deal a lot with very difficult subjects and topics just because I think a lot of it has to do with growing up and not being told about the atrocities around our country. And so I made work about lynchings as well. I used to use music notation to spell out lynchings to show it, but then I learned about these lynching postcards that were traditionally made for many, many decades. And I picked this particular postcard because they were social events, they were festive events. They had 4-, 5-, and 6-year-olds come out. So I wanted to bring this alive, so I brought it alive by coloring it. And I said, let's take it a step further. Let's bring it alive by animating it. And I was recently funded through Map Fund to do a series of 12 of these images and bring them to life. And I want to show you an example of this piece that I brought to life. And the pieces are called Stories from the Trees. And basically, kind of a play on words, as trees were used for the postcards and trees for people. So that was a short sample of that piece. The full piece would probably be about 40 minutes. There's a great book called Without Sanctuary. It shows a lot of lynchings that happen. I wrote the music as well for this animation, and I'd use a lot of non-traditional techniques when I play. A lot of times when you think of cello, you think of... I don't really do that. Just because there are a lot of folks that do it really, really well. And I started playing cello after I played with orchestras for years, playing double bass, bass. So I did a lot of that, and I enjoyed playing in orchestras, but I wanted some freedom, so I started playing the cello, and I've never taken a lesson, so I wanted to play my own way, so I started doing things like playing against the body and playing different parts of the instrument. So I want to play a little bit for you, and goes something like this.
Doing a book tour in Australia, Adelaide, and I had about 700 people in a room, a theatre, and mostly they were actors, they were artists. And of course I was talking about voice, the release of sound, the purging of sound. If you put words out there, you create the thing itself, and that has to be done in second circle, and I'll get onto that in a moment. But in the corner over there was a little man in a suit, and he didn't seem to be part of the rest of the audience. And I started to get very upset because he was very upset. And like a very stupid, vain human being, and we all have that awful vanity, I thought to myself, oh, he doesn't like me. Which is probably true. And isn't that a wonderful thing in life when you realize, particularly as actors, that you can't make anyone like you? Forget it, you know. Do the work, do the play. Don't try and make anyone like you. In any case, he was sitting over there, shuffling, very disturbed, little suit. And at the end, I did a book signing, and I saw him hovering over there, you see, and I thought, oh no, I've got to meet this man. This is obviously something I have to do. And he waited till most of the people had gone, and then he came up to me, and he just said to me, I don't like theatre. And I said, oh, okay. And there was a gap, and he said, well, my wife and I once went to the theatre. We didn't like it. And I had to stop myself doing, you know, all that defending. And I thought, well, I'll just stay with you, because he didn't want to go. He wanted to be there. He wanted to be actually present with me. And so I said, well, what was it that you saw? And he said, oh, it was about women in Greece, in Troy. And I said, oh, the women of Troy. I said, oh, yeah. And he said, yeah, we didn't like it. And I waited. And I said, so why didn't you like it? He said, oh, there was this actress, and she made a sound. She lost her son. And I said, Andromache, she loses her young child, her son. And he said, yeah, we didn't like her. And I said, why didn't you like her? Oh, she made a sound. It was really embarrassing. And then he went very quiet, and something happened in his energy, and he looked down to the floor, and he looked up at me, and he said, a year ago, a policeman came and told me my daughter had been raped and murdered, and I made that sound. Whoever that actress was, I bless her. I bless the fact. That's why I do theatre, because if you play the truth and you're present and you don't want to be liked, she must have felt that audience hating her performance, but she told the truth. And he said to me, you know, she told me the truth, but I hadn't grown up enough to know it. Now that's why I do theatre.
Hello. Hey. My name is Anguilu. I'm a muralist here in town that began my career as a graffiti artist. And I'm still a graffiti artist. I still feel the same way I did when I was painting illegally. But it's a different approach now. I am a product of the people that support art in a different way. I work with communities. I work with business owners and anyone that I see that I could use their building as a way for me to express what I do. When I used to paint trains, I would write funny quotes next to the trains, and it was always like a hip-hop song or something that was funny that I wanted other writers to see in other parts of the country on trains. As I grew up, I realized that I wanted to continue to do something, and I didn't know what that was, you know, with what I learned from painting trains. So I began to explore new ways to create artwork that was more of the where I could tell people what I wanted to say without really saying it myself. So these murals came with me growing into the community. So people would come and ask me what I was doing because I would fund everything myself. And I had this guy that came and told me, well, you're doing artwork. Do you need paint? And he will give me paint. I had other people that would come and look for me and say, hey, well, do you want another place to paint? And I'm like, yeah, well, I'll take another place to paint. So there was other places that were opening up. And now I'm involved with the art community here in Houston, and I work with a board of whatever I get invited to. I go and see what they're doing, and I try to explore it more of my own way of, how, is this beneficial? How is this working for us? What is art? And I come to understand that art is culture, and we are the people that are allowing this culture to grow. So even if, when people, what do I have to say to you guys? Like, when people come with ideas, I think that you guys are also the artists that are going to make sure these ideas continue. I think that sometimes that we don't understand doesn't exist, you know, and that we know that's wrong exists because we are not stopping it. And I think that with art, we can show people what a criminal action could become something that's now part of a community, because graffiti is part of the culture. It's wrong, it's illegal, and that's for the other people to decide. For us is to see it, to explore it, and think of it as artists. What is this really doing to community? How can we support people that have ideas? And I think that even though people are not used to writing proposals or used to really understanding how this system works, I think it's important for us to still have an eye, and when we see something that catches your attention and that probably would not fit into art, but we have an opportunity to say, yeah, this is art. How can we help this survive? How can we help this develop? How can we have this in our community? And now that I'm involved with a lot of people, I think that I still don't call myself an artist. It's hard for me. I don't know how that works, you know? But I'm friends with a lot of people that have these ideas and that they want to develop ideas. And I think that that really is what we should continue to do. My work exists because people allow it to exist. My work is something that I enjoy because I get to meet people like yourselves. My work is, it's not about me. It has always been about an idea. And I don't know how that's gonna continue. And I don't know where it's gonna take me, and I really don't really care, you know? It has been something that a gift for many people, and now I see it as something that kids are growing up watching around them. And I think this connection with this store owner, this connection with anyone that's like, doesn't understand what art is, but they have a place and they support ideas, it's important. And now I'm in a place where it could become a career, but I don't understand if it is a career, you know? I don't understand if it's something that I want to do full time. I paint 8 hours a day, you know, plus I work, and I still continue to get involved. It's just, I have the energy to do things, you know, have the energy to let this out and figure out what is it really going to do, you know. Even when I was approached to come here and speak to you guys, it took me a while to decide to come do this, because I really have to view it as a person first, then as what is it going to do for everybody else. And after that, it's not something that's going to benefit my career, you know. This is something that's going to benefit everyone that's like me, you know, everyone that's out there figuring out of how they're going to do what they do. And I think that one thing I would like to remind you guys, that you are the artists. You are the people that will allow us and everyone culture to continue to develop. Culture exists. We have to make sure that it continues in a way we're not going to damage the culture. We're just giving it enough to see what it's going to do. Thank you, guys.
I'm Todd Mackover, and I'd like to invite you to join me on a very unusual musical adventure. The idea is to create a symphony about this beautiful city of Luzern called Eine Sinfonie für Luzern. And what's unusual about it is that I'll be working on this piece as a composer, but I'd like all of you to create it with me. And together we'll listen to this city, think about the feel of this city, and think about how to convey that in music to people who live here and to people all around the world. We'll do this first by literally going around the city, listening carefully to recording sounds which are very familiar, like the lake side or a park or the train station, but also trying to find sounds which only you know. The sound from your house, or perhaps some construction or mechanical sound that we don't usually associate with the city. The widest variety would be the best. You can go and record these sounds, find out how to record, and send them to this address. As the project develops, we'll have many different ways that people can participate, by improvising, by singing, by combining sounds together with special apps that we're going to make with my team at the MIT Media Lab back in Boston. And little by little, between now and the summer 2015, all of our ideas will come together. We'll decide what the story of the piece is, what the theme, what the feeling is, until we have this symphony which represents this city in a very, very different way. So this project, Eine Sinfonie für Luzern, begins now. And I invite all of you to collaborate with me and to make this musical portrait of Luzern.
All right, good morning. I'm Latoya Peterson. I am a writer, digital activist, and apparently an artist. And one of the things I spend a lot of time doing is thinking about the future of media. What is supposed to happen next? I'm sure I don't have to tell people in this room that journalism at the moment is kind of in a crisis. But a lot of the most interesting things that are happening right now are coming from people who are willing to pull down the walls of what traditional journalism is and instead look at what it can be, and really starting to blur the boundaries between journalism and public art projects. We first started seeing this with the New York Times R&D lab and their project called Reveal, which is actually an augmented mirror that uses virtual reality, and it uses to get data, biometric data from users from your scale, your weight, your heart rate, and display that along with weather, along with headlines and things like that, basically taking the stories that you were looking at on your television or on your paper into your bathroom in a place where you might immediately need it. But that's not the only place where we can take journalism. Activists from Fight for the Future, when the FCC was looking at the net neutrality debates, took John Oliver's long 15-minute monologue from last week tonight and erected it on billboards out front of the FCC building. I live in DC. This was amazing to watch, right? And they played it on a loop all day, so that even if you've never heard of John Oliver, you don't know what net neutrality is, and you've never heard of the FCC, just walking by in your day-to-day life, you might get an aspect of the story. But where else can we take stories? MIT's Media Lab and the University of Brisbane collaborated to make kind of a Stories of the City project, where as you ride around the city on bikes, different events, things from the past come up and display on the spokes. And their Kickstarter is very, very amazing if you want to look at this project and how they put it together. But don't be fooled by the very grand look of all of these projects. They actually take very little. Thanks to consumer advances in consumer technology, many of the best instruments we have we already are holding in our hands and we fit in our pockets, all right? The things you can do with a cell phone are amazing. And when you add small things, so in the back I have a Connect projector from my Stanford Night Year project where I tried to figure out how do you make public spaces interactive, all right? You can use a $99 Connect sensor, some Bluetooth speakers, your cell phone, and a mini projector. That unit is about $500. And in your backpack, you can suddenly have the tools to transform any public space, any blank area, any wall, any sidewalk into a mobile interactive project. The capacity is amazing. Other activists have looked at projection. This is from Luminous Intervention in Baltimore, and they're an activist group that wants to bring a lot of attention to major issues. Again, what journalists tend to do. They projected people live under this road over a large overpass in Baltimore to just bring attention to the fact that, yes, there are people living here. And as rents increase, gentrification is happening. It's a huge issue right now in DC, Baltimore, and around the country. And just having this one reminder, people live under this road, really impacted the lives of people who are just, commuting to work, just passing by. This is one of those ways we take stories to the streets. This also from Luminous Interventions is a way of taking conversations from one area and putting them into a different geographic area. So this one, we bring Occupy Wall Street to the streets of Baltimore. And people didn't have to log on to the New York Times or look at a live stream. They could immediately begin engaging in the conversation in their space, in their homes. Activists have also used projection after the events of what's happened in Ferguson, Missouri, which has captivated both the nation and international media attention in terms of police brutality and police violence. And activists there, after the murder of Kajimi Powell by police officers, went to town hall and looped the cell phone video of the shooting as the officials were meeting to have this discussion. So again, taking the story that was on papers, that's on Twitter, that is places, and bringing it right to the spaces where people are making policy is a very, very powerful application of what journalism can be. But that's not the only one, all right? My friend Mariam Siman, who was a part of my night cohort at Stanford, noted that she wanted people to go from storytelling to story living. My friend Noni De La Pena, who just won an award this weekend at Indiecade for her impact, applied that to her journalism. And she decided to create this virtual reality world using an open source video game technology background called Unity, and creating a virtual reality immersive experience that she's calling immersive journalism, where instead of just reading about what happened or watching what happened, she's created and hacked together a little kit that allows you to actually be in the space and to feel what people were seeing and doing by creating and gathering the ambient sound and then putting it together in a virtual environment. Let's experience just a little taste of her latest project about Syria.
A third of all Syrians have been displaced by the war.
So that's what it kind of feels like to be inside of one of Noni's immersive experiences. She's also done one on Guantanamo Bay. She's done them on Hunger in Los Angeles. And her current one is about the death of a person who was crossing the border from Mexico into Texas and what that felt like. And it's another way of really being able to immerse people and get them to live these stories in a way that hopefully will garner more empathy and more attention. Now, Noni's projects normally debut at places like Sundance, right? And they're huge, and you normally go to them, they're an event. But with the advent of things like Oculus Rift, these types of experiences will soon be available to people inside their homes. We can take these types of immersive, huge, gripping stories directly to you. But what interests me the most, and what is another part of this whole idea of story living, was the Question Bridge Black Males Project, which I also saw at Sundance the same year I met Noni. And Question Bridge I loved because it takes social media and social storytelling to a whole nother level by allowing people to not only see the story as it's unfolding, but if you notice to the right, to actively respond, to put their voice in. So instead of having intermediaries like us, like journalists, suddenly people will be able to tell their own stories in real time. And that is just at the beginning. This is a very nascent stage and a nascent idea of what this could eventually grow into and what this could eventually be. So these are just a few of the many ideas that are influencing journalism right now. But one of the most exciting things about being here and being in this space right now is seeing that finally, after years and years of debating about form and art and who we should be and what a journalist is supposed to be, we're starting to put the public, people, and ideas first. Thank you.
Vì sao kể我cho我đó cứ tìm mong này của do cả sao
mong lưu ni nhớ trong đường đi mong từ bóng đau lưu cùng mùa đưa muôn thơ thu đây về nghĩa thiết là
giờ về chỉ lưu tay chơi li lúa lo chua bê giờ xì lưu giờ trong tia bê bê sợ wo kê lo ti thái bê mong luôn bê nữ thiên đó mưa thông luôn biết bê
mùa kê nhớ xia thọ xì ba đâu mùa kê giống xia thọ ba thơ mong lu bùa mùa thia lý giờ tu
giờ đây chỉ mùa lưu tay chơi li lúa lo chua bê giờ xì lưu chỉ lưu nó ngu
Good morning. I'm going to, thank you. I'm going to tell you a little bit about aesthetic engineering. I bet you're all dying to know what that is. It's hacking with beauty. Now, hacking is a term that's laden with negative baggage. And I don't mean hacking like stealing or hacking like breaking into. Hacking with beauty is using the goal of beauty to manipulate the results in evolution. Now, beauty is invisible, goals are invisible, but their effects are visible. Often becoming aware of invisible entities requires paying attention to their visible effects. Paying attention is simply adding thinking to looking, but paying attention can be a really useful survival skill. Both paying attention to what's right in front of your face and paying attention to the implications of the not so obvious. Paying attention to the not so obvious implications of a beauty-driven evolution got me to thinking. And you know where thinking leads, always to making art. And I was thinking about genetic engineering. You know, it's usually involved with a biological entity. But what about the other entities? What about something more conceptual, or the conceptual side of biological entities? I was thinking about what would happen if you could combine, say, weather and plants, or clouds and flowers, or music and blooming, or gesture and trees. So I'm going to show you 7 of these experiments while I just talk. Now, these are aesthetic engineering experiments, and they embody what-if hybrids of things that don't have genes nor can they reproduce. But the goal, you'll remember, is one of the goals is increase beauty. I don't mean beauty to attract a pollinator or beauty to attract a mate. I simply mean beauty for beauty's sake. And I was thinking, well, what might be the agent for this evolution? Would it be genes or memes or something beyond that? And could that entity be humanly manipulated or engineered? And remember, genetic engineering is just a useful analogy because aesthetic engineering, as I'm describing it, doesn't exist yet. These are simply visual thought experiments that illustrate my wondering about the implications of a beauty-driven evolution and how that might affect the outcome of things like music and gesture. Also, I'm thinking of aesthetic engineering has also a goal beyond increased beauty, beyond increased awareness, beyond even wonder, and because hopefully it exists not to be consumed as just a beautiful object, but to actually sort of infect the viewer and make them think about the opportunities to create beauty everywhere, potential for beauty everywhere. So be careful, you might be infected already. Thank you.
Wow, what a powerful way to start our day. Please join me in thanking all of our great presenters this morning.